Uh, how exciting. When I first spoke to Ashok, said what we're trying to do is make things very practical, give people real examples and so on and so forth. And he said, well, I've got this entire VR rig and I've got this AR thing and I've got this mobile thing, etc. I said, no, that's, can we make it a bit less practical? How's this going to work? And so we talked about it and we thought, no, we can make this work. So Ashok's got 3 really good examples. And I was going to symbolically roll my sleeves up at this point and just say, this is what this is all about. It's to actually prove how technology can make a difference to the traveling customer. So without further ado, I'll hand over.
Oh, thank you, John. Thank you very much. Very good afternoon. And my name is Dr. Ashok Maharaj, and I take care of the XR lab in Tata Consultancy Services. I'm based out of Chennai. So for the first few minutes, I'd like you to reimagine what content could mean as virtual, augmented, and mixed reality or becoming a reality. The digital world that you're now envisaging will soon be enmeshed with the physical world in such a way that your reality is going to be extended. The advent of digital realities is a great opportunity for us to rethink and reimagine information. We are slowly moving away from the glowing rectangular screens, which some of you are currently looking at now, into a computational space where the world will be the desktop. Immersive experience media technology is the future of computation itself. When I was a grad student at Georgia Tech, I encountered this book, phenomenal book by Thomas Kuhn. It's called as The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. I'm sure most of you are using the term paradigm shift, but this is a guy who really gave that phrase a real erudite definition. So he was trying to compare different scientific revolutions that was happening in history. So from the geocentric model, which everyone believed for a very long time, there came a heliocentric model where sun became the center of the entire solar system. So Thomas Kuhn defined that as a paradigm shift. A paradigm shift because it's not going back to the earlier forms of doing things, which is based on the geocentric model. So when I look at augmented, virtual, and mixed reality, we are witnessing a paradigm shift in the computing world. What you're seeing is a very clunky ecosystem, but slowly all this clunkiness is going to disappear. So my plan of my talk today is 2 parts. The first is the discourses that surround these technologies, because the technology is very new, and me being an academic, we are looking at it more from a philosophical angle too, as we are trying to shape this technology. So what are the dominant discourses that surrounds this XR medium? The second is the nuts and bolts of this technology, because as you can see, I'm in between all these wires and sensors and all of that. So what are these technologies and why do we need them to experience this extended reality? And part 2 is the contextual demos that we have done in our labs. Most of it is classified, but I have brought some models which you can actually see and feel it. And we also have a booth just outside. Post this session, you can also experience it there. But I'll try to do justice here by going through these 2 parts. So bear with me on the part 2. If there is any technological inconsistencies, that really defines where the state of AR, VR, and MR is currently. So the first discourse, this is a beautiful quote by Mark Weiser, and he stated that a good tool is an invisible tool. By invisible may mean that the tool does not intrude on our consciousness. You focus on the task, not the tool. All your mobile phones have a GPS. At one stage, the GPS was just right outside your mobile phone. Every time when you want to connect to the GPS, you have to put these antennas out. So technology was very visible in that evolution. So right now, you're seeing all this clunkiness of hardware, right? You're seeing huge sensors, controllers for manipulating the images. So technology here, in terms of VR, AR and MR, is still very visible. Every time when I go for conferences, I haul these technologies, and most of the time, you laboriously put your time for these technologies to work. So this is the first discourse. The second one, this is a famous book by Marshall McLuhan. If you're from the communications studies, you will know this guy. He stated that medium is the message. We shape our tools, and then the tools shape us. So as I'm talking, there are constantly a lot of companies and labs, who are working on these technologies, and they are slowly starting to shape the society with those technologies. At the same time, society also constructs these technologies. So we call that as social construction of technology. So this is the second discourse that underpins XR. And thirdly, we have this, whenever a new technology emerges in the market, like blockchain, we try to use it for any random problem in the industry, right? So in between, you have these entrepreneurs, like people like me, who are trying to use XR for a number of issues, for a number of problem statements. But that is not how we have to treat this technology. So one of my background was in human-computer interaction, and as we are engaging this new medium, epistemologically speaking, we are also very careful of how we want to use this technology, right? We want to be ethically very mindful of this new medium. So if you're looking at the XR dimension, right, I kind of depend on this Milgram-Kishino spectrum. And later on, this was revised by Microsoft. So on the one end, you have the real environment, the reality as we see today, right? And as I slowly bring in some level of syntheticness to the environment, then it becomes an augmenting of reality. So we call that as augmented reality, because you are adding a little bit of syntheticness to that existing reality. And as I move away to the right side, my syntheticness gets increased, right? I'm slowly moving away from reality into a completely synthetic medium. So I'm totally cut off from reality, and whatever you're seeing is kind of informing your brain, and there is nothing real out there. It's just a suspension of disbelief happening when you're wearing the headset. So this is the spectrum. So if you're in the hotel industry or in the travel industry, if you're trying to bring your XR into this, it will fall in this spectrum. And I'll show you what are all the gadgets that we have in this spectrum. So if you're planning to use augmented reality, you have a few set of devices. If you're looking at 360-degree videos, you have another set of devices, and the mobile, and the last is the fully immersive environments. And all of these technologies, at one stage, 2 years back, they were very expensive. For example, on the right extreme, you have a full immersion virtual reality. A normal headset would cost you around $700, plus the supporting laptops, which is around $2,000. But now the prices are all coming down. So again, if you are planning to have something in XR, these are the gadgets that you will be getting acclimatized to. So what is this AR, right? It overlays digitally created content onto the user's real environment. I want to show you a clip from the movie Minority Report, just for 2 minutes, and then we will, I'll try to explain to you how AR and MR have been used here.
I show 8 Howard marks in the district, sorting by race and age.
On their license registration. See, I can capture that.
Running out of time. I was thinking maybe I'd play hooky, stay home today.
Working too much.
Can you grab that?
It's unclear.
I got 6 licenses. Where do you want them?
Over here, please.
Very slow.
Blind I am without them.
Got them in the clock's off. 4421 games, bro.
Send a DCPD blue and white. Set up a perimeter and tell them we're en route.
Investigator from the feds here.
Yeah, I don't need some twink from the Fed poking around right now.
John, I wrote it down in your calendar. I left you a message at your house.
Check in with the papers they had it forwarded. See if the neighbors knew where they went. Check all relations.
Checking neighbors and relations.
But John,
Fletch, just get him some coffee. Tell him some stories how I save your ass every day. You can't live without me.
I got coffee. Thank you. Danny Whitman, twink from the Fed. Whoops. Gum?
Sorry, Danny, I'm gonna have to give you the full tour some other time.
The Marxists moved a couple of weeks ago. Nobody knows where. Still searching for family and employer.
Time horizon 12 minutes.
what he's doing now, we call scrubbing the image, looking for clues as to where the murder's gonna happen.
Original running bond brick pattern, streamline early Georgian details. Brick is being repointed. Look at this kid. And this one he's on the left side of the man in the suit.
Yes? So?
This one he's on the right. There you go, man. It's a park.
Minority Report was a book written by Philip Dick in 1950s, and the reality of that was produced in a Hollywood production the year 2000. So whatever you're seeing there, you're seeing augmented information on a screen, and also in the later part of the movie, you will also see how he is interacting with those objects which he's seeing on the screen. In a nutshell, whenever you're seeing some physical, some digital content over a physical medium, then it kind of gets the rubric of augmented reality. So the one that the next video is about what we have done for KLM. It was done from our labs. And this is one of the finest use cases, as said by Mashable, that you can actually have for the end customer interactions. So moving on, if you look at the spectrum, as I said, from reality, if you move and add a little bit of digital content, it becomes augmented. And once when you're able to interact with that physical object, then it becomes mixed reality. So there are a lot of use cases that we are currently working on for defense and also for the airline industry, where you are able to see 3D content, or you are able to open up an engine and you are able to see all the parts of the engine, right? And you can actually manipulate the digital objects as you are seeing those physical objects. So that's when it comes to mixed reality. For want of time, I will not play the video. I'll just move on to the next one, which are some of the tools that we used for experiencing this hybrid reality. Microsoft HoloLens is the classic one. They're coming up with the version 2 at some point. But these devices are extremely clunky. The battery, it heats up pretty fast, and your field of view, which is very, very critical in an MR environment, the field of view is very important. Microsoft has a field of view of 45, and Meta has a field of view of 50. And now we are seeing more and more gadgets in the market like Magic Leap, which has a field of view of 55. So it gives a tremendous amount of capability for the mechanic or the user to actually see much more detail whenever he's looking at an engine. So coming to virtual reality, this has been a highly hyped environment, and all of these devices that you're seeing were all developed by the game developers initially. So from game development, it has come to the enterprise, and now from the enterprise, it is going to, more and more end customers are embracing this medium. So in virtual reality, as I said earlier, it's a purely synthetic medium. Whatever you're seeing is digitally created. There are many ways of creating this digital content. I'll get to that after this short video, which kind of gives you a fuller view of what this medium is. We developed a version of this for Travelport, and for in all of the innovation labs, we have demoed this product, and this also won the Innovista Award. We are going to the finals round. So this model is out there in the booth. So if you're interested, you can actually take a look at it, post this session. So when you're talking about virtual reality, there are two concepts that you need to understand. First is it's the degree of freedom. We call it as 3 DOF, and the other one is called as the 6 DOF. If you're using your mobile phone and you're putting it on a Google Cardboard or a Samsung VR headset, you're having a 360-degree motion of your head. That's we call it as 3 DOF. The 3 degrees of freedom or pitch, roll, and the yaw, right? So pitch, roll, and the yaw. So you're actually kind of, you can move around your neck, move around, and you can see the spaces. So that's kind of 3 degrees of freedom. The next one is 6 degrees of freedom. So along with the pitch, roll, and the yaw, the other 3 degrees, or I can bend down, up, I can move forward, backward, and also sidewards. So this is a very powerful one when you're actually want to experience a real room scale VR. Actually, I can go to some places and I can look down under the table, or I can physically move from A to B to C and all of that. So there are a few devices that are out there in the market which is hugely popular. The first is the Google Cardboard, Samsung Gear VR, or the Google Daydream. If you're trying to experiment something of this for your industry, you can start with a very simple one like this. I'll also demo to you what we have done for a couple of our customers. For a fully immersive environment with 6 degrees of freedom, you need Oculus or PlayStation or HTC Vive. This is a little dated one. There are new products that are coming out in the market. So this is a little bit more detail on the virtual reality. I wanted to add this one because it's highly relevant for you guys. For example, if you are wanting to bring historical content, right? It could be a statue, or it could be an icon of some sort, or an artifact. How do you bring it to the virtual environment? So generally, we use a rig like this, where we place the object in the middle, and we take simultaneous shots of that. Either it could be 1,000 shots, or it could be 2,000, depends on the level of granularity you want it. Once when it is done, it is ported into the virtual environment. So this is a very cumbersome process. So creating content in virtual reality is a cumbersome process. But there are newer methods that are evolving by which we can create content in a much faster way. So this would take roughly around a week for porting a single statue into a virtual environment, right? So this technique is called as photogrammetry. So again, a quick recap. If I'm talking about augmented reality, you're seeing digital content on a physical environment like this. Second is you can see that there are tables, and right behind the table you see the digital content. So this is the mixed reality environment. And finally, a fully synthetic medium where nothing out there is reality. It's kind of, you create all of that from scratch. And one of the finest things that we have discovered in the tourism and the hospitality industry is the 360-degree experience. Most of you might have it on your mobiles, but this is fairly easy to do. And I'll show you one demo where it took us just 2 days to build the entire 360 degrees. So how do we do it? There are a few cameras out there in the market today, but originally we kind of used these GoPro cameras, 6 of them, all in a rig, and then we took these cameras to different places and we shot, and we stitched all of that together to give a 360-degree experience. So now moving to the contextual demos, I'll start with a 360-degree view of property that we shot. As I said, it just took us 2 days to complete the project, and the power of that is immense. When we gave that product to our customer, they were really, really impressed that we could finish that in a 2 days time frame. Go to the iPad. So what you're seeing is a beach property near Chennai. Um, so this is done using GoPro camera for the customer IHG. So this is the property, this is just a room that we shot, but it kind of gives you a lot of detail as to how the room looks. Slowly now hotel industry is adopting this medium, but not many are actually, embracing this full-fledged. There is a little bit of inertia, but all of this is streaming live from the web, right? Just if you have your mobile phone, I'll give you a QR code in the end. You can also have it on your mobile. And it kind of seamlessly moves from one location to another location. So when an end customer is looking at this, his decision making is much faster, and he actually, he knows what he's getting into, right? And this is the customer satisfaction that we are promising when they have a 360-degree experience. So moving from here, I want to show you a bit on the mixed reality environment. So some of the mixed reality that we have done, those are all highly classified, but I want to give you a quick model of how mixed reality actually works in the travel industry. So this is the Rosetta Stone, right? So as I told you earlier, there is a technique called as photogrammetry, where you have cameras looking at an artifact. So in this one, as you can see, I can't see my hand. There's an occlusion, right? And I can go around this image. Since this tablet is connected, I'm not able to go around. But you are able to create the entire replica of the Rosetta Stone here. So imagine the possibilities if you're trying to have this for your historic artifacts. It could be a Colosseum, it could be a Pisa Tower or anything. And if you're able to push it onto their mobile phones so that they can have a look at what these artifacts are right in their living room. I'm showing this right on my stage here. So now moving from MR to VR, can I have this laptop, Lectern laptop? So as I said earlier, this is the most tricky part of doing a virtual reality, in a stage. All right. So I'm in a 6DoF environment now. I can move forward. When I'm moving forward, I'm able to actually go near that object. So when I'm, this was created for the government of India, and as you can see, this is an emporium where there are statues that they are constantly selling for the end customers. So these statues, what you're seeing in the virtual environment, was created using the technique that I mentioned to you earlier, the photogrammetry techniques. So all these statues are lifelike, and the information that is overlaid, down. If you're able to click, you'll be able to see what kind of medium is it, and is it wood or bronze. And so this is the one of the examples that we have developed for in virtual reality. So the whole project took us roughly 6 months. But this kind of room scale virtual reality, is going to be the future of travel itself. That's what few people have approached us, like KLM and SAS. They are asking whether can we have this kind of an experience for all of the tourist destinations, so that even before a person goes to those locations, can they have this experience? So I'll stop here and maybe take a couple of questions from the audience. So again, sorry for the last minute VR display demo.
Hi again.
Yeah.
How we can integrate a film as we've seen before in a mixed reality issue, or a video perhaps or whatever, into a VR?
Mixed reality into a virtual reality?
Yes. I mean something that already exists, or I can take a video and import it.
Yes,
What
you
kind
can.
of technology we use?
Okay, if I have the 3D models, whatever you have developed for in mixed reality, I can port it into the virtual medium if I know the exact storyline or the narrative. So for the Pumbuhar that you saw earlier, that one we created for Government of India, we had the digital assets. We just have to create that room scale environment and then place these digital assets and stitch into a storyline. So the main task is creating these 3D models. That's the most critical one when you're talking about virtual reality. If you're looking at a space like Excel, right? If I want it in a virtual medium, what I'll generally do is I'll use lasers like LiDAR or Leica lasers, and it will kind of map this entire space. And then I'll put it into the virtual environment. So if I want to showcase how Excel looks to an audience in India, I'll kind of introduce this in the virtual reality, and they'll be able to go to each and every booth that you are seeing right here. Right? Okay.
We've seen parts of a movie inserted in a VR or a mixed R, let's say, session. How we can do this?
No, I'm not getting that question correctly.
Anyway, no worries.
Oh, no, we'll speak post this session. Yeah, thanks.
Hello.
All right. Okay, I'm here.
Hello.
Yeah.
I'm from a wax museum in Dublin, Ireland, and we developed an AR app for customers. It does a lot of things. It translates the information to a few different languages. There's a game to play, and some of the waxworks come to life. Now, we're actually finding it really hard for people to find an interest in going to the trouble of downloading it when they arrive. It's not as much of an uptake. It's free, but it's not as much of an uptake as I would have thought. Have you got any advice on maybe how we're communicating that, or is it not impressive enough?
There's a concept that is emerging called as AR cloud, right? Once when this AR cloud becomes a reality, then you can leave digital assets anywhere you want, and people, when they're coming into those physical locations, they'll be able to see it on their phone directly. So as of now, Google, Microsoft, IBM, Apple, all of them are trying to map this AR cloud. For example, this entire space, I could map it, and all of these structural points that I have taken, will be stored on the cloud. So when I'm coming into this location, they will be able to see the image augmenting, as they go to nook and corner of this building. So for that AR cloud to fully emerge, it takes time, and we are now starting the entire process, right? If you see the driverless cars going around, they're constantly mapping or creating those AR clouds, right? So I know there is a lot of inertia. There is not many people, you can make some cool AR applications, but people are not downloading them because they are either heavy or, there is a lot of inertia for downloading these apps. But what they are predicting is you don't have to download any app. For example, the 360-degree that I mentioned to you earlier, you can kind of get it out of a QR code. And any of your iPhones, iPhone camera will be able to detect that QR code, and you can directly get the information. So we are slowly moving from QR code to an agnostic one, where if I just take the mobile and keep walking, I'll be bombarded with information automatically. I don't have to download anything. So we are getting there. It will take a little bit more time. But in your wax museum, let us know how we can come along and help you create that AR cloud for that location. Yeah. Thank you. All right.
Okay, we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.